Hello there, welcome to this channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to download, install and configure Microsoft SQL Server Express. Jump to your browser, download SQL Server Express, Microsoft SQL Server downloads. I have to change the language because I am in Belgium. It shows automatically in Dutch. Here United States English. Try SQL Server. When you're only using SQL Server in development for testing and etc., it is best to use the developer version. The Express version is best for small businesses. So here it says SQL Server 2022 Express is a free edition of SQL Server, ideal for development and production for desktop, web, and small server applications. If you want to install SQL Server for a big company, for enterprise company, you should go with this version. Go to your download folder. Here you have the SQL 2022. Double click on it. So here you have three options: basic, custom, and download the media. The download media option is used so that you can download all the tools and the files, then deploy it in another machine, in another computer multiple times. So you can download the media one time and then deploy it in many servers and many computers. Because there are some settings that you need to understand and learn, I choose for custom. So you can select it in the installation folder, install. Here you have these options: new SQL Server standalone installation or add feature to an existing installation. If you want to install a new SQL Server or modify the existing one, click on the first one. If you are using SQL Server with Visual Studio, it is not necessary that you also install SQL Server management tools, because you can do everything on your server using Visual Studio. So click on the first one, accept the terms, next. Use Microsoft updates to check for updates, check it, next. The rest are okay, and only the firewall, don't worry about it. Azure, I'm not going to use Azure, but if you are using Azure, you have to provide the necessary information here and check this option. Here now the components. So definitely the database engine feature SQL Server replication. When you click on each feature, you can read about the feature here on the right side. So the SQL Server replication is for includes a set of technologies for copying and distributing data, database objects from one database to another, and synchronizing between the databases for consistency. Each feature requires some components. For example, the SQL Server replication requires Windows PowerShell 3 or higher, Microsoft Visual C++ 2017 redistributable, and the disk space that it will take. And then for machine learning services and language extension, I personally don't use that and don't need that. Here we are seeing very limited features. In the full feature version of SQL Server, you have a lot of options. The enterprise version of SQL Server is a very powerful tool for enterprise companies to work with their data, to analyze their data, to visualize their data, to report, manage, and do a lot of other things with their data. On this one, we need this full text and semantic extractions for search. Leave the rest as is. Here you can also change the directories. You have instance root directory, shared feature directory. Click on next. Instance configuration, it is very important. You have default instance, which is like this, and you have named instance. Named instance is useful that you can create multiple instances on the same machine, and it helps you to organize your database and connect different application to different instances. SQL Express, click on next. The rest is okay about this option. Grant perform volume maintenance tasks privilege to SQL Server Database Engine service. It is good for performance, but if you use encryption, this feature will prevent the encryption. You can read more about it by clicking on click here for details. Click next. On database engine configuration, select mixed mode, SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication. So provide here a strong password for SQL Server System Administrator or SA. You can also add here another user, but I also want to add the current user. Then on the other tabs you have data directories. Interesting to know. So TIM database, about the memory, about the user instance, and then about the file stream. Then click on next. So everything went successful, and here you see all the features that are installed, and you also can see all the components in the store. Here you see all these options that are installed new. You can use the SQL Server Configuration Manager to change some of the settings that we have seen during the installation. All those settings are completely changeable. You can modify them, you can change them later using the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So if you want to change anything, or if something went wrong, or if something will not work in the future, you can go to SQL Server Configuration Manager and change the settings. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully see you in the next video and have great times.